I'm really connecting with the water and who I was. I'm understanding some things about myself because in some ways I'm very, very calm and my paintings are soothing and there's a whole calm element. I'm thinking maybe it has to do with the water. This water was so much a part of my life. It wasn't like an hour away or 10 minutes away. It was 3 minutes away. And I spent hours here, winter, summer, my father and I making fires on the beach, our dog Shane running along the beach. So I feel very, very comfortable here. And that's fascinating about New York, that you could have this. And I could also be on 9th Avenue and 24th Street and have been influenced by both at the same time. That's very unusual because it's not a small town. The fact that New York is this wonderful port and is surrounded by water is why New York was great to begin with. It wasn't just great, 40 years ago or 80 years ago. It was started because it had this extraordinary waterway. So what we're experiencing is part of what it's always been. It's not a new thing. Just the feeling of being a child and driving with my parents on the Belt Parkway and seeing the water all around, driving into Manhattan and seeing the water all around. It's just that water is very, very prevalent to anybody who lives here or has grown up here. And I happen to live right next to the Atlantic Ocean as well. So when I've gone elsewhere, like Chicago, I just didn't quite get it. Even Paris, which I adore, I didn't exactly get because it just has that little Seine thing, which is not much. Even the Hudson is a big, masterful body of water. I don't know, maybe the blue color has something to do with water. Certainly, I think of the greenish colors. I'm intrigued by that color, but you could also think of it as, that I was actually thinking of as sea color, definitely. That I actually had that idea of, it doesn't actually look like the water, but I was thinking about the color in winter of the water. The ocean is actually not blue. It's a kind of a greenish color. So what just went into my mind, which is fascinating, is that because I grew up right near the water, I went to this place called the Base in the 50s where Pete Seeger was singing, and they were teaching painting there. And I did a painting of the ocean for the teacher. And he came over to me and he said, it was blue. So he said, well, why are you doing blue? Well, I said, well, the water is blue. I was 10, so kids think of the water as blue. He said, no, it's not blue. He said, it's a lot of colors. So he said, so why don't you put some other colors in it, like put a little yellow in, put a little red in. So he's obviously trained as an impressionist. And I was very impressed with that notion, which was not to go with the stereotype of what the water was, but to actually look at it.
Pat really, was an artist who came of age in the 60s and 70s in terms of her development in painting. Starting in the early 1960s, she was very involved in her education and looking around New York at the museums, at the galleries, and absorbing everything that was going on. Of course, abstract expressionism and abstraction were very, very strong influences on her.
When you look at an abstract painting, you're connecting with the artist's unconscious. I don't have a clear subject in my mind. I just do what I'm doing and think about it later. In fact, I love that remark. I only put it down to see what was on my mind. It's a way of exploring yourself to find out who you are.
But she really thinks about the color relationships, the edges of the lines, the placement of the color, what she's sort of describing a mood in her work. And I think she's an artist who needs to be looked at very quietly. You need to stand in front of her paintings and contemplate the pictures, and they reveal themselves.
It has been brought up to me, and I would not say yes or no, that these are the shape of the World Trade Center. I could never deny that. That's what's interesting about abstraction. Abstraction has multi-references. I'm just a human being that stuff is being filtered through. So who knows what I'm coming up with. I'm just standing there working in an abstract way. I think it's also just the verticality of New York in general. I think it was Fellini, one filmmaker, said he couldn't shoot New York. He had to wait till the screen became vertical. So this, pronounced verticality in all the recent paintings probably has to do with the idea of buildings. We're surrounded by buildings, we're walking through buildings, we're living in buildings.
I think Pat is one of these artists who holds her own in the art world today. And I also feel that when a critic, an artist, a client sees her work, they realize, oh, this is somebody substantial, this is somebody who knows what she's doing, this is someone who's fiercely devoted to her work, and she stands apart that way.
Well, to have been born in New York City is a great privilege. It's a lucky draw. To have lived in New York City for my entire life is fantastic. So I feel very grateful to New York, and I feel that my art is some way of paying back what I received from the city. I was exposed to the greatest things in the world in New York from a very early age, and I carry that with me.